Hi, everybody. This isn't like a normal YouTube video.
Hi.
Yeah, Mason's here. Because basically, a lot of people have been asking us to talk about the DCU slate.
A lot of people have been asking us?
Too many. It's quite frankly, it's annoying. So what's happening here is, first of all, you have to leave a like on this video.
Second of all, shut up, stop asking.
Third thing is that this is an excerpt from our podcast, The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. That comes out every Monday, but maybe you don't know we have a podcast, even though I mention it in literally every video.
Maybe they switch off early.
Maybe they switch off
way early.
Yeah, and that's probably the right thing to do. But listen, if you are interested in our thoughts, this is just going to be an audio of us talking about that. You can just put this on play and listen to it or whatever, or just stare at the screen.
Yeah, that'd be great, actually.
As nothing much happens. But Caravan of Garbage, of course, will be back this Thursday. Things are all happening in the Shrekiverse, and there's a bunch of other videos in the pipeline, which I know for a fact that Mason cannot wait for.
Hope you're not Shrek-averse.
Yeah, that's good.
Because we're talking about the Shrek.
That's not today, though, is it?
No.
Oh, it's at bigsandwich.co now, actually, if you do want to watch that Shrek 2
Hope you're not
early.
DC-averse.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about the DC-averse, which is what they call it now.
That's true. All right, here's the thing that I said was happening.
Bye.
And I hope you left a like, because I was serious about that. That wasn't a joke.
I'm serious.
I was serious for real.
I'm serious.
Let's get into the slate then.
All right, well, first of all, James Gunn did come out and he said, look, just as a point of difference from Marvel, and in the wake of the release of Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans, from this point forward, all DC superheroes, where possible, will be pronounced like their surnames. And then he announced Superman Legacy and The Batman 2.
Yeah.
And he said there's actually going to be a retroactive redubbing, like a historic project where they're going to redub all the old stuff as well.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah. Going to be Batman Returns. Batman Begins. There's going to be that iconic scene where the criminal's like, "Who are you?" And he's going to be like, "I'm Batman."
That's great. So here's what he said to Screen Rant about kicking all this off. He said, I wanted to take care of these characters. We all know it's been a fucked up road for many of them for the past few years. And
First of all, rude and edgy, and I like it.
And I really thought it was a challenge, but I think it's a possibility to create something really wonderful with these characters. The history has been shit. It's been a real fucked up journey for DC. I think there was basically no one minding the mint, and they were giving out IPs to any creative that smiled at whomever was in the room. There was never really any power given to the people in charge, and so somebody could always go over their heads and do whatever they wanted. And people have thought that's the implication that Dwayne Johnson was out his way on Black Adam and Henry Cavill.
Johnson.
But we don't know who specifically we're talking about. He said we had the DCEU, which they never officially named, by the way.
Yeah, that's true.
When
did they have a chance? It only went for like 15 years.
Which then
When did they have a second to themselves to just sit down? Sometimes I'll take a day, James, and I'll have a day off, and I'm like, today I'm going to delete some tabs in my phone browser. It'll be my whole day. Just really get into it, really reorganize some stuff. They should have taken a day.
I agree. We had the DCEU, which then became the Joss Whedon Justice League, but it was also the Snyderverse, which became this. And then we have Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 2, which doesn't even match what happened in Wonder Woman 1. And then we also have the Arrowverse and even us coming in with the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. And you know, what is it exactly? All of a sudden, Batmite's a real guy. So how can we take these things together and make them make sense and have them unified and have them be one real universe, one real world?
Was Batmite a real guy?
He was mentioned in Peacemaker.
Oh, yeah.
I know this is harsh, and Snyder fans might not want to hear it,
Okay.
but it is a mess.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this. Like, it's all over the place, man. And look, I'm not saying what he's doing necessarily is going to be the greatest thing ever, but looking at this lineup, I think this could be really incredible, genuinely.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? But first, let's talk about the things that are going to be wrapping up under the old guard that they're going to be releasing.
Yeah.
So in the statement that he put out, which is him in front of a brick wall.
That's edgy.
That is
like
edgy.
a 1980s stand-up comic.
Yeah. They're going to wrap things up with Shazam 2, The Flash, which is apparently going to reset the universe, which means they're probably going to maybe film some stuff that's going to be connected to his DCU, potentially. Maybe the new Superman or Batman, I don't know.
James, Superman and Batman.
Superman and Batman.
At least for this episode.
Yes.
That's probably coming up here, but they're really hyping up that Flash movie.
Yeah.
They're like, this is the best thing we've ever done, maybe.
We'll see.
We'll see, won't we?
And Aquaman 2. Yeah, so that he got into all of that, right?
Yeah.
And basically like, yeah, these are great and we're still releasing them, but there is going to be a reset point, which is just like how they reset with the New 52 in the comics, essentially. So there's going to be an 8 to 10 year plan, and chapter 1 is called Gods and Monsters.
Interesting, right?
Now, the idea is, this is via Jeff Snyder, who's a big Scooper Mason. He said, because of that 8 to 10 year plan, talent is being asked to sign a 10-year deal that covers both film and television, which makes sense. And the first thing that's going to be released is an animated show written by James Gunn, 7 episodes, called Creature Commandos.
And speaking of, not only has this been a big week of new announcements of new projects for DC, it has also been a big week for comic book creators learning that their creations are being used in TV and film. Specifically this, I think it's J.M. DeMatteis, who created the Creature Commandos and has used them a bunch of times, was like, that's interesting.
Am I?
Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. But I will say this. What I do like about these announcements, and I feel like some of this is after that, some creators came out, James Gunn came out and he named specific comics which were either the story or the tone.
Yes.
And I think that's really important to acknowledge that these aren't ideas that have come out of thin air.
Yeah.
People created these and often got paid very little to no money to do so.
Yeah.
And even the fact that they're getting eyes on these creators and maybe hopefully throwing some more money their way is a good thing.
Yeah.
And I hope that becomes the norm across all mediums who use comics, I think.
And in all walks of life.
Yeah, because in Marvel, they'll often use a story and then they won't pay somebody properly or at all.
DC, are known pretty widely for being better at that. I don't know. I don't think we know any figures really, but there are stories about how people have been, they got paid more for Lucius Fox than, was it Len Wein who created whoever created Lucius Fox got more for that than Thanos.
Okay,
I think
I remember that.
I think it's the same creator.
Well, that's fair enough. Morgan Freeman,
Yeah. I'm probably crossing my wires there, but it was a minor character, major character.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I remember something along those lines. So this is going to be an Amanda Waller-led monster Black Ops team. Gunn said also it allows the creative collaborators to tell stories that are gigantic but without spending, $50 million. Because as we know, Mason, animation... You can
do anything. You can do anything. Budget's unlimited.
It's basically free to make.
Just knock it out in a weekend. So this lineup is interesting.
Yeah.
The guy on the left, I believe, is Rick Flag Sr.
Who do you think they're going to get for that?
Maybe they'll get...
Joel Kinnaman
Maybe they get
again.
Joel Kinnaman or Joel Kinnaman's dad.
Joel Kinnaman's dad?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Joel Kinnaman Sr.
Is it one of the Skarsgård brothers?
It might be one of the Skarsgård brothers.
Yeah.
So the
Weasel's on there?
Yeah, Weasel is on there, so that's a carryover from the Suicide Squad. We got both Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yep.
The glowing skeleton, I believe, is Dr. Phosphorus. Mm-hmm. And then we've got some sort of shape of water mer-lady.
Yep.
I think. And a robot guy.
That's correct.
That's probably a known robot guy, but I don't know who it is.
Probably. I mean, yeah, some of them I remember and some of them I don't.
And what's interesting about this as well is that, like a lot of big two comic book properties, both sides have one of these. Both Marvel and DC have a
monster squad.
They have a monster squad of sorts. In fact, I think maybe Marvel's is the monster squad. They both have a team of weirdos, many of which are, outside of copyright, universal monsters that they have, that they're in a team. Sometimes they're in World War II.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're a special ops team or whatever. But this might be, is this the first one where DC's done it out of the gate?
Might be, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting as a first choice.
I wonder if they saw Werewolf by Night and they were like, that's probably what Marvel's going to do.
Yeah, maybe.
We're going to get a bunch of horror weirdos in a team. Let's do it first.
I do wonder, and
of course, this is animation, so you can just knock it out.
You can do anything.
Just knock it out in 5 minutes. They probably knocked it out in 5 minutes.
What's interesting is a couple of things. They're going to cast voice actors who will then appear in live action at some point, potentially.
Right.
So they're obviously going to look similar to their counterparts. Obviously, there's going to be some CGI characters here, so they're going to voice them regardless.
Maybe it will be Kinnaman then, yeah.
But also, there was a second thing I was going to say and I've forgotten. But that would have been also interesting.
Oh, yeah, sounds like it would have been interesting. You're often saying interesting things, and I like that.
Oh, what I was going to say, that I know you said maybe they looked at Marvel and what they were doing with Werewolf by Night. We don't really know when Gunn came on board for this.
Right.
How long was he writing this? Was he writing this long before he was decided that him and Saffran were going to take over?
That's true, yeah.
We don't know the timeline of any of this. Obviously, when they make the announcement that he's taking over, that's a deal that's potentially 6 months to years, in the making. Maybe not years, but yeah, we don't know at this point.
This article I'm reading here is saying that at one point one of the members of the team included a riff on the creature of the Black Lagoon called Bogman.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun.
Great.
And also, this is like the Suicide Squad, like the Justice League, this is a roster that they can swap out.
Kill
Anybody. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So there's also going to be a live-action series called Waller, which is a Viola Davis-led series set between Peacemaker Season 1 and 2. Peacemaker Season 2 has been delayed because of everything else James Gunn is working on. So it's going to have Crystal Henry, one of the minds behind the latest Watchmen series, and Jeremy Carver, who worked on Doom Patrol, which is great because they just cancelled Doom Patrol.
Yeah, so he's free.
And well, and because it's a good show,
Yeah.
admittedly I haven't seen it, at least they recognize that, like, well, one of the people who worked on this is obviously talented, and let's give them another shot.
Right.
So they're going to be writing it. And these Creature Commandos and Waller are expected to debut before the first movie, Superman Legacy. It's called by Saffran an aperitif.
Oh, very
So they
fancy.
say, yeah.
He's edgy, but he's also classy. I like that.
Just like a cold egg you can eat
Like
before
a cold
meal.
egg, yes, that's right. Like a champagne and Monster energy drink.
Mixed?
Yeah.
Separately.
No, mixed.
Next, good, yeah. I like that as like a jumping off point.
Yeah.
Before getting to a big movie. I think that's good stuff. But let's talk about a big movie.
Oh, a big movie.
It's Superman Legacy.
Nice.
This has a release date for the moment of July 11th, 2025. Now, James Gunn said this is what his version is going to look like. He's a big galoot. He's a farm boy from Kansas who's very idealistic. His greatest weakness is that he'll never kill anybody, and he doesn't want to hurt a living soul. And I think that sort of innate goodness about Superman, that's his defining characteristic. He's also going to be writing the project, but Saffran has said, and we've mentioned this, that he hopes James Gunn can be persuaded perhaps to direct as well. And I think, look, as we've said before,
I guess I'll do it.
Well,
I guess I'll direct a Superman movie.
if he's doing this universe, and this is the first movie,
Yeah.
and he's in charge of this, and he wants it to be his vision and the best version of this, it would make 100% sense that he directs this movie.
Absolutely.
And I think that he could make an excellent Superman movie.
Yeah.
For real this time, though.
Yeah.
I know, like, all the Superman movie have their strengths.
Yeah.
But just the idea of seeing, this, it's kind of based tonally on, like, all-star Superman.
Yes,
And this mix of, like, naivety and, like, good-heartedness, but intelligence and, and, in journalistic integrity and investigation and aliens and being like an immigrant from outer space and all of these things. I've been saying for ages, I want a definitive modern Superman movie, and I don't think that they ever got that with the Henry Cavill Superman.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're also going to cast about 25.
Yeah.
Which is why they haven't brought Henry Cavill back
and
for this.
so to be clear, we don't know any actors who are about 25, so
No.
we can't really.
Can't help you, sorry.
Yeah, there's a front runner and he looks pretty Superman-y, and I'm like, yeah, looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Can he act? Don't know.
Can he run? Can he front run?
That's what you need. That's right. And didn't James Gunn produced, or at least co-produced, Brightburn?
That's true.
So we know he's got the, he's got the, he can do that. He can make superpowers look for real,
I think also, like, he does heart.
Superman superpowers.
He does heart really well. I know he can do, like, weird, gross stuff.
Yeah.
But if you look at, like, the Guardians movies and other things that he's done, that he can do, like, he can elicit emotion.
It's true.
Even if it's, like, a horrible little raccoon or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think...
But can he elicit Superman punching a man into space?
I hope so.
Yeah, same.
I think also there's a good chance that this is there'll be a Lobo situation. Lobo comes to Earth and is like, hello. And Superman's like, just don't. Stop it.
Could you give it a rest?
I don't like your flying motorcycle, sir.
It's too loud. I'm putting in a complaint to the council. We're going to get a sign.
Of Krypton.
We're getting a sign put up that says, please.
Sir.
Sir.
After that, we're going to be having the show Lanterns, which is an enormous TV series that follows Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart as they discover a dark mystery, true detective style. It plays a really big leading role in the main story that they're telling
Hal
across.
Jordan will be on meth the entire time.
They're telling across the main story
Space meth.
of
Smeth.
of film and television. Wow. Now, there was a Green Lantern series. It was going to be Guy Gardner-led and Greg Berlanti was doing it. It was behind a lot of the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
That's not what this is going to be. I love the idea of, like, space mystery Green Lantern. And what if, like, the greater mystery is like a, what's his name? The big skull ship guy. Brainiac or something like that.
Yeah.
Like they're uncovering an intergalactic mystery. They could also tie it into, we read an excellent Superman comic recently about an alien invasion and a girl
Up and Away?
Yeah, which is incredible. Like maybe it ties to
Link
something
them all
like
together,
that.
yeah.
The True Detective thing is a bit like
That is a lofty goal, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Maybe if they're like True Detective, the Vince Vaughn series. Not the one that everybody loved universally.
True Detective, but the old pulp magazines that weren't very good. Sorry, we tricked you, but bad. Yeah, look, I mean, what if it is, though? Like, what if it is just a good prestige TV series?
Yep.
Because, Amazon Prime do it and all, where it's like a great drama set in space.
Yeah.
That is achievable.
Yep.
And a good-looking superhero TV series.
A couple of good-looking roosters heading it up.
Yeah, it's for a couple of those roosters.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously we've had some attempts at Green Lantern in the past. There was a 90 Tally movie, which we covered in Caravan of Garbage.
That's right.
Terrible. There was the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds.
Terrible.
Excellent. I agree. Yeah, really good. And we also done a video on it. But let's see whatever this is. I mean, because they are essentially space cops, aren't they?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So, let's see that, I guess. Yeah. Next up, this is really your wheelhouse. I'm going to throw to you for this, Mason.
No.
It says being a big loser.
Oh, yeah, cool. Great. I'm ready. I've never been more ready in my life.
No,
that dream where you wake up at school and you haven't studied for the test and you're naked? Well, I've studied for this test and I've got so many clothes on. I've got a bunch of T-shirts that say, I'm with a big loser, and there's an arrow that's pointing right up at me.
No, it's The Authority.
The Authority, great.
Based on the Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch's comic.
Yes.
These are the Wildstorm characters.
Yes. So, obviously, Image Comics was a bunch of former big two. It was mostly Marvel creators who went and formed their own company.
Yeah.
But Jim Lee created Wildstorm, which was his own kind of superhero universe, and different creators jumped in and with that and built up that universe.
Yeah.
And one team was Stormwatch, which was a government superhero agency. And then in the universe, some members of that team went rogue, and then they added some more members, and they found a like a miles long spaceship in an interdimensional breach, and that became their base of operations, and they became the Authority. And it was a sort of a superhero team that is there's an early storyline where a bunch of aliens from a parallel universe come and invade Earth, and they beat back the invasion, and they go into that parallel universe and they destroy their planet.
Right.
Like, it's that kind of universe.
Yep.
It's like they re-invade the invaders and they kill them all.
Wow.
Like, I think it was described as sort of like widescreen comics. Like, it's big action.
Okay,
like,
sure. Big splash pages and
pages, and they're not averse to blowing up a planet or finding and killing God, for example.
It's interesting you say that, because apparently with this story, this is according to Peter Saffran, they take things into their own hands, and they're kind of like Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men. They know that you want them on the wall, or at least they believe that. So basically, bad people.
Yeah.
Thinking they're doing good, or sometimes doing good.
Oh, well, what I should have said is also, eventually the Wildstorm universe, Jim Lee sold it to DC, and many of those characters got integrated into the DC universe as a whole. And so some of them are like Marvel, they're like homages to existing super. So like there's two characters, Apollo and the Midnighter, who are Superman and Batman, but they're a couple.
Yep.
For example,
couple of good friends,
couple of really good friends and roommates
who are gay for each other.
Oh yeah,
all the time.
They're also that
big time.
Yeah. I'm not super across.
Do they get into like the power dynamic of that in terms of like? One is a superpowered being and one's
the Midnighter
like
is also superpowered.
Oh, okay.
He's like Batman times 100. So they were both
Batman.
Yeah. So they were both. Their origin is basically they were both experimented on and given superpowers. And Apollo is like Superman. He's got solar power based super. But Midnighter is super strong and super resilient, but he also has a computer in his head that can calculate millions of battle probabilities.
Someone put a calculator in his head.
Yeah, he's got a big calculator in his head. He sometimes says
TI-83.
Says boobs, and he's like, no, thank you.
Not for me.
Not for me. But it's like he's one of those guys where it's like before the fight starts, he's already won because he knows exactly when. So it's that guy. So that's interesting. But I'm not overly familiar with the DC versions of these characters. So I'm not sure who's still on the team or who they got rid of.
You haven't read this particular Warren Ellis.
No, I've read that one because that's pre DC.
Oh, okay, sure.
So this one is it's like huge stuff. Like there's one of the characters, he's called the God of the City. So he's a guy, speaking of being experimented on, his origin is that he got abducted into the future as a kid and a teenager. He kept getting abducted by what he thought were aliens and getting all sorts of bionic enhancements and stuff. And then it was revealed he was being abducted by humans from the future because in the future cities became sentient like immortal engines.
Right.
And like there was this sort of future apocalypse and they were coming back through time to destroy the earth.
Oh,
and so he had to
God.
fight a sentient city. And his origin story ends with him turning Tokyo into a giant mech suit and punching on with a flying city. So it's like that level of
insanity.
So if they're going to put that, I'm very happy.
Sounds like it should be animated because then it wouldn't cost anything.
Oh, it'd be free. So I don't know what level of. Again, there's just and it's and some of that.
I mean, Gunn loves a big weird thing like
That's
Starro.
That's
so
a big weird
why
thing.
not?
Yeah. I mean, and some of it is also after Warren Ellis, there was like a Mark Miller run.
Yep.
And that's pretty edgy and rude.
Ooh.
So I don't know how much edgy and rude stuff they're going to put in.
Sure, okay.
But I would recommend all those runs. I think.
Okay, all right. I might look at some to all of them, Mason. Next up,
you know what? Speaking of,
sure.
What I like about what Gunn is doing here, it's not like they've taken a photo of Benedict Cumberbatch and he's reading a vague Doctor Strange comic or whatever. He said, here are some stories that inspired what we're doing. It's not the exact stories, but here's the vibe.
Yeah.
And you can buy them, and people have bought them.
Yeah.
And it's not a case. Apparently, Marvel sneak a QR code into some of their stuff, and if you scan it, you get a free copy of the whatever.
Yep.
That doesn't work.
Doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Just show people what it is, and people will buy it.
I completely agree. And also, I feel like the way that they gut the comic book industry, because they don't seem to realize that a lot of the value in this IP is the fact that all of these stories have been tested in another format where they have been proven to work.
Yeah.
And then they borrow them and put them on the screen. And I think bringing light to that could even hopefully revamp a lot of the fact, like new ideas and new stories.
Yeah.
Because there is the threat of if you keep doing events in the comics where it's Civil War, and then it's Civil War 2, and then it's Civil War in an alternate dimension or whatever, and then it's World War Hulk, and then it's World Wars Hulks. And what are we doing? Where are the new events? Where's the exciting new characters? Where's different stories?
I mean, speaking of DC, obviously in Batman v Superman, they did the Dark Knight Returns and they did Doomsday.
Yep.
And they did some Injustice stuff.
And it was Justice League Origins.
And they just burned it all in the one movie.
Yeah,
and it's like you could have done a really, regardless of how people think about that movie, which is hilarious. That could have been 4 movies or 5 movies.
I agree.
But they, Zack Snyder went, well, it'd be cool if I could do all of them. And
what if Doomsday showed up at the end?
Yeah.
But it's not really Doomsday or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, we love the Snyderverse and we'll never stop campaigning.
We'll never stop loving it. You can't stop us either.
It's definitely, it has its strengths, but also he's, as we've talked about, he's not even doing that stuff anymore. He's at Netflix making Star Wars Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
Next up, Mason, we have something called Paradise Lost, which is a Wonder Woman prequel likened to Game of Thrones. Now,
see, there we go. There's that True Detective comparison.
Yeah.
Again.
I also like the way they're pitching this to anybody. So if you hear that, you're like, I get that.
Yeah.
They're not, that's not an obscure reference. It's like, you like Game of Thrones? This is that, but it's all women.
So the good seasons of Game of Thrones too. We're not going to screw you over in the last one. I'll tell you that much.
It's really about political intrigue behind a society of all women. How did this come about? What's the origin of an island of women? Because this is interesting because what are the beautiful truths and the ugly truths behind that? Because if you look at the history of Themyscira in various comics, this society are like this beautiful utopian of all women and warriors and all this, everybody's kind of getting along. It's just built off the backs of slave labor and blood and all this and all this other stuff. And what's the scheming like between the different power players in that society? So there you go. And maybe they'll even get Robin Wright back or whatever.
Sure.
Because she does a good political intrigue. They didn't say that, but that was just something that I'm waxing poetic about, Mason.
Is that what you're doing?
That's what I'm doing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sounds like a real Game of Thrones, True Detective style thing
but the good seasons.
But the good seasons, yeah.
Yeah. Mason, we're going to take a little bit of a break for me to say this. This is all related. Variety have said that the plan is that Saffran and Gunn we're going to release roughly 2 films and 2 TV shows per year into the DCU. That output will not, however, sacrifice quality to meet deadlines. Gunn and Saffran were adamant that films and series will not go into production until scripts are finished. And you might be like, that seems obvious. Isn't that what they always do? No.
Apparently not.
You would be shocked at how many productions roll with unfinished scripts, or they kind of change it halfway through and they're writing it on the day, which is also can be good things when you're finding the story kind of on the fly. Sometimes that can work. More often than not, you watch it and you go, what was that? what happened. And the reason is because they picked a release date and then they just ran at it no matter what happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also, speaking of, did you say 2 movies and 2 series a year?
That's the
right. I think also perhaps part of that plan is because Warner Brothers doesn't have any money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't. That's an interesting point that you bring up.
And the question becomes, because we've mentioned it recently. The movies they released last year were Don't Worry, Darling and Black Adam.
2 good movies.
Which didn't review well and didn't do well financially.
2 good movies though.
2 very good movies. I'm sure I said they were both best movie ever. So
yeah, that's what we're saying. 2 good movies.
But so much of this production I think relies on Gunn and Saffran getting some money for the first couple of things, and hoping they're huge hits.
Yep.
And then getting more money.
The Iron Man strategy.
The Iron Man strategy, because if that doesn't work, maybe this whole thing is a house of cards that's going to collapse. Because if they make Superman Legacy and it doesn't do particularly well, I don't know if they're going to have the money to make Game of Thrones, but it's on Themyscira.
And the TV show.
Because that's going to cost $10 million an episode or whatever, or more. I don't know what those shows cost.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. It's also interesting that it seems as if like DC, I don't understand why they weren't leaning into this more heavily earlier. This is obviously the most valuable thing that Warner Brothers has, right?
Which bit?
All this DC stuff.
Right.
And I know they have other properties. I am aware of that, an animation department, etc. But this is...
Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, well, yeah. Space Jam, another Space Jam.
Right.
But this is... If
Space
you do
Jam
this right...
into the Jamverse.
This is just a fucking Scrooge McDuck bin of just straight money forever. If you do it right.
Yeah, right.
It's basically you could do the MCU with this, like levels of levels of wealth that you're bringing in. What I also like about this is there is that balance, and it's even in the name of Gods and Monsters, of like, here's some weird stuff, and here's Superman. I think that's great. Anyways, here we have, Mason, The Brave and the Bold, which is a bold title for a movie that I would have thought they just would have said Batman. It's another Batman movie. This is inspired by Grant Morrison's Batman Volume 1, which I actually haven't read, but it's going to include a new Batman and Damian Wayne. It's going to be a father-son story. So Gunn described Damian Wayne as our favorite Robin, a little son of a bitch, an assassin, and a murderer. So if you don't know, Batman has a child in the comics and various other mediums with Talia al Ghul, who grew up in the League of Assassins, and he's just basically a little psycho. And then he comes back to Batman, and Batman's like, you shouldn't kill people. Do you want to be Robin? And he's like, yes, but I am going to try to keep killing people. And then Batman's like, just
you
don't.
Scally, you little rascal. You're such a rascal.
If you were anybody else but my son, I would put you in jail.
Right?
But
you get a pass for some reason.
I wouldn't say he's my favorite Robin, but
but it's an interesting dynamic.
like the premise of this, yes, and the idea behind it. So it also implies that there is a Bat family, because Damian Wayne is like 4 Robins in, 3 at least.
If you don't count Stephanie Brown, 4.
Yeah. That also means like there's a Nightwing. Maybe there's a Carrie Kelly. I know she's from the future or whatever, but we don't know what this is going to look like.
That's true. Yeah.
I think this could be a fascinating story, Mason, and a little bit of fun and all that.
Let me ask you this, James.
Sure.
Because obviously we've got the Batman.
Yep.
And we're having new Batman.
New Batman?
Based on Grant Morrison's Batman. Do you think this is the time to reintroduce blue and grey costume?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's comics.
Yeah.
And this is comics.
This is comics, baby.
Absolutely.
Or maybe even, the one that's like, purple inside cape.
Yep.
Give us the oval, the yellow oval bat logo back or something. But there's like the blue and grey costume can look very cool, I think.
And
if you want to differentiate,
I've seen cosplays of it that work as well.
And if you want to differentiate the various Batmans, if you want people to not be confused when you see a Pattinson Batman or a regular comic book Batman.
Or Ben Affleck Batman.
You go give them you could make it armored, but you could also make it more cloth. You could give it the one of like, it's the lightweight costume for swinging about the city. It's not the battle suit kind of thing. It's not the mech thing,
It's not the mech thing.
It's not the mech thing.
Completely agree. Yeah. So that's pretty much all the information we have on that. So let's move this along to Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Now this is a Tom King comic. And by coincidence, I happen to have just read this.
Ooh.
It's an intergalactic story of revenge.
Ooh.
It's a fantastic read if you haven't already. So basically what we've got here, Mason, it says, we see the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, who was
raised in the toilet.
Raised in a toilet. In a kryptonite toilet. It was raised on a rock chip of Krypton, watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life. So yeah, Supergirl comes to Earth when she's like a youngish teenager.
Yeah, so the comic book version, I think
she's supposed to be older than him, but she arrives after, so she's younger than him.
So
she's his older cousin.
That's one of the continuities.
Sure,
but it's so they both rocketed from Krypton, but due to some time dilation thing, he arrived first and grew up to a man.
Yeah,
and she's like, I'm still a girl.
I'm in a toilet.
That's right.
Yeah.
Probably the malnutrition due to the toilet thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what's great about this, and I don't know if you've read it. Have you read it?
No, I haven't read it.
You should read it. I've read it already.
I refuse now.
Is that it's one of the things that I know you love about Superman stories or characters like this, is that it's an intergalactic adventure where Supergirl isn't particularly special depending where she is.
Right.
Some of the planets have a red sun, so she's not superpowered, but there's still some like residual energy from that. It's basically a revenge story where a girl asks her help in tracking down her father's killer. She's like, all right.
Sure.
And they just have this like road trip together through various planets and meeting.
Busted up space RV.
Yes, basic stuff like that. Yeah,
Cool.
they'll get a space bus places.
Now, is this going to be the Supergirl that is the Supergirl in the Flash?
That's
or
a great
different
question.
Supergirl?
I would say that depends on how well that movie is received and how well she's received in particular.
Oh, yeah, probably true.
Yeah, but potentially, yes.
Yeah.
But also potentially no.
Potentially
and I'm
no.
happy to say that.
Yeah. Who do you think I think we are if we're out of our depth anywhere, it's everywhere. But if we're out of depth in any particular thing, it's probably casting, especially young actors.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. Who's the new Batman? We don't know yet.
Don't know.
Mystery. New Superman. We don't know.
Well, Batman's
new Robin.
going to be a little bit older, because if he's got a son, he'd have to be at least early 30s. I don't think or mid 30s, maybe early 30s.
Yeah.
I think they're not going to do 45-year-old to 50 grizzled Batman yet. They'll probably get to that eventually, like the Affleck style. But it also, I know there's been some talk about what age do you make his son.
Yeah.
And I know people have said, well, it'd be more appropriate if he was like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
But I think, no, make him 10.
Right.
And then that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like a Hit Girl style lunatic. And I think...
But the actor would have to be...
The actor would have to be slightly older, I guess, or look younger, or 10-year-old, whatever.
Yeah, right.
But I think that is more interesting than a person who looks like a man doing
Chris
this.
O'Donnell,
for example.
The same height as George Clooney,
yeah.
I think.
But I think, and I think that lends itself to a different style of fighting. He's more of like a ninja. He's more of an assassin. He's not like a big bloke. He's like a light little guy with a little katana or whatever.
Yeah.
Killing people. So I would like to see that, because it's like weird and fucked up. And I think maybe James Gunn would maybe.
Oh, he would absolutely do that. Yeah.
But
Oh yeah, no, I can absolutely imagine just like just a corridor fight like in Daredevil, but it's a tiny little boy with a katana.
Yeah. There you go.
And then you're right. We get to meet the rest of the Bat family, mate. Maybe what if the new Batman, they just throw in a couple of more Robins and a Nightwing and a Red Hood and just be like, here it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Booster Gold, which is going to be a live-action series. This is described as which is true of the comics, a loser from the future who uses basic future technology to come back to today and pretend to be a superhero. Basically, Booster Gold is imposter syndrome as a superhero. Booster Gold is a lot of fun. There's some animated stuff, which is quite good from, is it the JLA series?
Yes.
Where he has his own little episode at one point.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's kind of, basically, if you've seen Mystery Men, he's basically, he's kind of like the, who's the guy who's all sponsored in that?
Oh, yeah. Greg Kinnear's character.
Yes.
He's like...
Mr. Superior or whatever.
Something like that,
I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
But it's basically that guy, but he doesn't really believe anything about himself.
Yes, right.
He's all hype, but also he's really a hero. I saw people...
And he comes back to get rich, basically.
Yeah. I saw
rich and famous. Yeah.
Yes. I saw some people being like, maybe Chris Pratt would be a good fit for this, and I think that could be the case. But then also like Glenn Powell put his hand up and went, yes.
Oh, that could work, yeah.
He's from Top Gun Maverick, obviously. And I think that could be good. So there's some casting for you, Mason.
Captain Amazing was Greg Kinnear's character.
Okay, there we go.
and also like
James Gunn loves a loser as well.
That's true.
Like a lovable loser. Yeah.
Well, he replied to us that one time.
That's true. That's why I liked you so much.
Oh, come on, mate. No, I just made that joke about us and then you made it about me. Should stop wearing this T-shirt. But I love it. It's cozy.
It's good.
Booster Gold, of course, famously in the comic books is often pals, big time pals with Blue Beetle.
Yeah, I like that team up.
Do you reckon we'll get that team up with Blue Beetle,
Yeah.
the movie, which is currently it's been made and still on track and it's definitely being released?
That's one. Actually, you're right. We didn't mention, but yes,
but
Blue
it's a
Beetle,
different Blue Beetle.
Yeah, I mean, you could still do that, you know.
Yeah.
But yes, I wonder if they're going to address any of the other Blue Beetles in the Blue Beetle movie, or if they cancel Blue Beetle.
Maybe they might cancel it. Yeah,
I
we
honestly
just will not have anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know much about that because we haven't really seen anything except some like paparazzi shots and like a logo.
Yeah.
So I don't really
And
know.
there's no.
I like him though. He's in like
Yeah.
Karate Kid and whatever.
Would you say it's based on the stuff? Because I've not seen it. I didn't see it anywhere. It wasn't in cancellations. Nobody said, and it's gonna
Didn't he mention it briefly?
Maybe he did. I didn't see it though.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Um.
I think it's still coming out. I think he
okay,
has
right.
mentioned it. If he didn't in this, at
Okay.
least.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I might be
Good,
wrong.
Good.
Yeah. Next up,
Yes.
while you're maybe looking into that, or
I am
maybe
looking.
you're shopping for new T-shirts, is
I'm a super big loser. That'll do it. But ironically, that's what it says.
on the back. Yeah. It's going to be Swamp Thing, which is inspired by Alan Moore's Swamp Thing Volume 1. So it's going to be a dark origin of Swamp Thing, which we actually saw recently in a TV series, which again we looked at, which was actually quite good.
Yeah.
James Mangold seemed to be officially in talks. He also posted a picture of it on Twitter.
That's true.
Also, he might already be signed on for this.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
feel like that's very much possible, very, very possible at this point. So Gunn referenced the initial reactions to Guardians of the Galaxy joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the initial questions about how Rocket Raccoon would work standing next to Thor. And he said that mashup quality wound up being one of the highlights of Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, which I think is true. So Gunn said they're one-upping that approach with Swamp Thing. This is a much more horrific film, but will still have Swamp Thing interact with other characters.
Oh,
that
Swamp Thing and Weasel.
that Alan Moore Swamp Thing run is great. It's also got a sequence where he takes over, I think it's Gotham, and so they send in Batman, and Swamp Thing just beats the shit out of Batman. Batman puts a flamethrower on him, but then doesn't realize that Swamp Thing is literally everywhere in the city because he's covered the city in like various growth. And
That was
so
the
he
era where
just pummels Batman.
That was the era when Batman was not completely invincible and
He didn't have his plan. He just went in with a flamethrower.
It's just him being beaten up by supernatural weirdos like month after month.
Yeah.
Oh, what
I
an
love
era.
that.
Okay, so according to Blue Beetle updates on Twitter, then there's Blue Beetle on August 18th. I think James Gunn is saying here that sort of has its own world and fits in directly into our DCU.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay, so that's still happening.
So happening at this point.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Interesting that they've gone with Swamp Thing, a series that they cancelled before it was fully out.
Yeah, but nobody watched it,
That's true.
unfortunately, because it's quite good.
That is why people didn't watch it.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And now to wrap this up, though apparently there might be some other stuff announced, like this is just the initial kind of lineup. They've talked about Elseworlds, and Elseworlds is going to consist of, which is basically, if you don't know, Elseworlds is story set outside of the main continuity.
Yeah.
Kind of like, it's not like, I was going to say like Marvel's What If. It's not like that. It's just, it's like Superman Red Sun would be an example, where if Superman landed in Russia. Superman where he's British.
Yes.
That's another
True
one.
Brit.
True Brit.
I think what it is.
Crap comic, apparently. Haven't read it.
Yeah, I've read it. It's not good. Yeah, so basically what happened was years ago, DC had their infinite universes, and they were like, this is too complicated, let's get rid of it. And then immediately they were like, I kind of miss this.
Yeah.
We would love to have. So then they went Elseworlds, and Elseworlds is basically like, well, initially it was like, these are just vaguely whatever.
Yeah.
Is it a parallel universe? Is it an imaginary story? It doesn't matter.
Who cares?
It's just an
Who cares?
Elseworld.
Shut up.
Yeah, just shut up. Shut up. And then, years later, with years more of continuity, a lot of the time they've gone with they are parallel universes.
Yeah.
You can go and visit them. They can come to other universes. Vampire Batman can fight British Superman or whatever. If they
shut
really,
up.
But if you could shut
Yeah.
up, my God.
So I like this. I like this idea. So basically we've got, for the moment, these aren't a surprise, but Joker 2, which is already happening. The Batman Part 2, which has a release date.
Great name for starters.
I agree. It's the sequel to, obviously, The Batman with Robert Pattinson. Bat. That's out in October of 2025. Also, apparently that Ta-Nehisi Coates Superman movie is still happening. Teen Titans Go, the animated series, and occasionally they do a movie. That's also part of that. Now, Saffran has also said the bar is going to be very high for projects that are outside the DCU, these Elseworlds projects. But now and then there will be something that lives up to that. Okay. So basically he's saying that like the barrier to entry for this, you have to have a pretty compelling pitch and idea to come in. Because it needs to stand alone. And also, I guess what's interesting about this is you could get like a Joaquin Phoenix or Robert Pattinson or whoever to do like one.
Yeah.
Maybe you get Henry Cavill to come in and do Superman on British.
Yeah,
you know?
He's British.
I know. That's what
British,
I'm saying.
James.
Yeah. I don't think they're done with Henry Cavill.
Kryptonite on toast.
Yeah.
It's not British enough.
No, crumpets.
Yeah, kryptonite on crumpet. That can be his catchphrase. Kryptonite on a crumpet.
But not for me. It'll kill me. I won't.
Yeah.
I won't have that.
Yeah.
I'll die. But so yeah, that's interesting. Also, Peter Saffran talked about Zachary Levi, who's obviously Shazam, Gal Gadot, who is Wonder Woman for now at least, and Ezra Miller.
Everyone here for now at least.
Yeah, he said that there's no reason why all these people you mentioned couldn't be part of the DCU. We just haven't decided what the story is, what we want to tell that incorporates Shazam or Aquaman.
Oh, yes.
We didn't, he said specifically, though we don't know in what capacity, we didn't let Gal go. So I guess we'll find out. Ezra's movie is already made. That is a problem that they have to deal with no matter what.
Yeah.
It costs too much money, and apparently it's so good that they have to release it.
Best movie anyone's ever made. People have wept at the cinema.
Yeah, and Henry doesn't fit for what I have for Superman. That was what James Gunn said. So he also said, maybe it was
ugly. My Superman's going to be really ugly.
Big Argo.
Yeah.
I think this is Saffran said, we fully support the journey.
His logo just says, I'm a big loser, and there's an arrow that points up to his face. What's the S stand for? Well, on my planet, it stands for I'm a big loser. They made me wear it, and now I'm just kind of, I've settled into it.
Yeah, it's fine. This is in regards to Ezra Miller. We're fully supportive of that journey that they're on right now. When the time is right, when they feel that they are ready to have a discussion, we'll figure out the best way forward. But right now, they're completely focused on their recovery. I think as soon as The Flash comes out, that is dead.
Yeah.
They will remove Ezra Miller, which I also think is probably a good idea at this point. James Gunn also mentioned this week that he doesn't agree with necessarily everything that an actor says, and this is in regards to Zachary Levi when he was like, Pfizer's whatever. And look, I know, like... No,
well, I don't agree that it is whatever.
I know that, like... That could be taken as a general statement against Big Pharma.
Yeah.
Nobody's pro fucking Big Pharma, but I think it is very specifically,
We'll take
about,
that money.
Like vaccine stuff. But James Gunn is just like, I don't know, I don't agree with everybody and so whatever.
Yeah. It is just, look, regardless of your opinion on any of that stuff, what a terrible time to tweet that at all. Like, regardless of what he meant,
movie's coming out.
whether it's a dog whistle to anti-vax people or it's just a thing where he's like, yeah, I don't like the fact that there are big corporations or whatever. The fact that it could be interpreted a bunch of ways and you chose now to say it, what were you thinking?
Some people say hero, though. What a hero.
Some people would say what a hero. They'd be like the perfect time to say that. But not the money men at Warner Brothers.
No.
They'd be like, don't do that. Why would you do it?
It's also mentioned here that they're working with Ben Affleck, who really wants to be part of our architecture team, trying to bring things together. And he really wants to direct one of our projects, and we're looking forward to him doing that. I wonder if that's going to be his Batman movie.
Boston Batman.
Get in the car. Get in the car.
It's the Batmobile.
Get in the Batman car.
Yes. Precisely.
Cool, he's a good director, so, why not?
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to be Batman anymore.
Yes,
and he
true.
loves that, I think.
He would 100% direct a Batman movie, so he can just, every day he just walks in and just...
Eats a donut.
Eats a donut and jeans and a sweatshirt.
Holding a cigarette.
And he just sees the new Batman come in and he's just like, yep, great. How's the suit? Uncomfortable? Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, 5 hours you've been in that.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be 5 more, won't it?
Yeah,
I can leave today.
We extra made this one that you can't pee in it.
Yeah, that's right.
Doubly so.
Yeah, it circulates around the suit and it runs down your eyes.
But that's Hollywood.
Yeah,
and you knew that going in. Yeah, so there you go. And I guess just to wrap this up, video games.
Ooh.
This is via DC.com. this is the head of DC Studios, James Gunn, explained this. It's not like we're going to have...
Who's that guy? Never heard of him.
It's not like we're going to have a Superman movie come out and then we have this Superman game come out. It's more like that we'll have a Superman film that comes out, then maybe 2 years later we have a Supergirl movie coming out, so then what's the story in between there? So yeah, I think you can tell like smaller or different or, whatever narratives from
bridging
that.
the gap, I guess.
Yeah, which I think is cool. It also takes the pressure off having a game released at the same time as a movie. But also, I don't care if games tie into... I want games to be good, and I don't care if it's the same Superman. I don't give a shit.
And the answer of what happens in between the Superman movie and the Supergirl movie is nothing. So it really takes the pressure off the game designers.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just Clark Kent sitting in his apartment wearing a T-shirt that says, I'm a big loser, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's everything.
Whoa. Big week.
This is pretty promising. Early days, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how the next 8 to 10 years shakes out.
We'll see how it shakes out. We'll see how much of what has been said here is hyperbole and what is real stuff. Will we get a true detective style?
Yep. Will the money run out?
Will the money run out is a great question.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but in the CW, there's a character called Diggle. He's an original character. And there was apparently in the last, few seasons of the CW shows, there was a big, long-running idea that he would become a Green Lantern somehow.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's just... And then at one point, he gets like a mysterious box with a green glow in it, and he's like, he can't open the box, and obviously there's a Green Lantern ring in there. And at the end, they were just like, no, he chooses not to take the...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Because he couldn't get the box open?
Couldn't get the box open. He hit it with a rock and everything. Got his mate, he had a welding torch.
Really?
No, I don't know. Well, but
that's television.
I think there was some justification around we don't want to put Green Lanterns on TV for yet, and this is probably exactly the reason.
Yeah.
But I think it's just funny that he had this whole story arc of like, is he going to... And he's just like, I've chosen not to do this.
I know what this is, and I've chosen not to.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Bizarre.
Sounds like work to me. I don't like it. Give me a regular gun any day. They fire in space, right? No.
Oh, no. So what's happening with the DC TV stuff at the moment, the stuff that's not in the mainline universe, which is just Peacemaker at this point?
Yeah.
We'll talk about more.
Because James Gunn he did a big announcement.
Yes.
And it's Gunn and Saffran, and I think they've decided to be good cop, bad cop.
Oh, okay.
Because one announces all the exciting new things.
The other one goes.
And the other one is like, and we're cancelling things.
This is why this isn't happening.
Yeah, this is why. Yeah.
So this is what Peter Saffran said via Variety about the Batgirl movie.
Oh, yes.
Now, if you recall,
this is what I'm thinking of, actually.
Yeah. You can talk about it, or I can read the quote, however you want to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, if you don't know, they filmed the entirety of the movie and then they binned it. And this was before the new DC, the shift change.
Yes.
I saw the movie and there was a lot of incredibly talented people in front of and behind the camera on that film, but that film was not releasable, and it happens sometimes. No, it doesn't.
We'll release anything. We'll get to that and Warner Brothers release schedule. We'll talk about that.
That film is not releasable. I actually think that the president of Warner Brothers, David Zaslav, and the team made a very bold and courageous decision to cancel it because it would have hurt DC. It would have hurt those people involved. It would have not have been able to compete in the theatrical marketplace. It was built for the small screen. So again, I think it's not an easy decision, but they made the right decision by shelving it. Mason.
Wow.
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, he can say anything he wants because we'll never see it. So
yeah,
he can absolutely say, yeah, no, it was actually... So we actually saved you. You all dodged a bullet, actually. We were spraying bullets left and right, and you just dodged them.
I think it was... maybe it was bad. We won't ever know.
Well, that's why they
Or
can
maybe
get away
it was
with
a tax dodge.
Yeah.
He's not going to come out and go, yeah, it was the tax thing.
Yeah, right, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually really good and very releasable, but we wanted to save some money, and we just decided.
So we have, and we did.
Yeah, we had.
And I'm proud of myself.
That's right.
So there you go.